I'm Michael.
Tell me when to start.
I will.
Now.
I will. No. Let me admit everyone first.
Oh,
Take
no.
time, one button at a time, I'm afraid, for me to admit people.
We
Let's
are
not
very
do this.
professional.
Let's not comment. Let her do it, please.
I have just
I just hit it with
Wait. Someone's still connecting to audio.
I am
Y si quiero hablarles, no me...
Leonard Valiente is still joining.
just start the meeting, please.
Okay.
Okay. It's already 5:01.
All right, we're starting the meeting. We're 1 minute late. Thank you, everybody, for joining. you have come to the right place. This is the Pacifica Fight Back National Town Hall. And we're going to have some really fantastic guests here today. We're really honored with our VIP guests. And to introduce them, we have our VIP host from WBAI, that's your home base, Mimi Rosenberg, the producer host of Equal Rights and Justice, and with Ken Nash of Building Bridges. So thank you, Mimi.
Listen, it's a pleasure to be here, and there are no VIPs but all of us. This is a forum by the people, for the people. That's how we look at our radio network. It's radio by the people, for the people, and for the people for a far better world, which we are all capable of putting into effect if we agitate, if we educate, and we organize. And it is our responsibility to do that. And I just want to say that it's kind of ironic to be doing this forum today. I recently, for Equal Rights and Justice, which is the other radio program that I did, put out a flyer for a forum on just that, equal rights and justice. And it was a discourse on the new McCarthyism, or if you will, the state of the First Amendment and the ability to dissent within the society. And that was significant enough for Facebook to ban me. One looks at the great irony in this, but we're operating at a time where that is not terribly surprising, that social media can close us down in a moment when they suspect that anything that we do is a prelude to dissent against militarism, dissent against imperialist, dissent against the policies of the machinations of the capitalist state. Now, I think that this is a prescient time that we're doing this forum, because while it's specific to particular issues, it is also in the context of, as we return to school, universities passing new regulations to have a quiescence in the student population, to suspend faculty members, all of whom may be anti-imperialist and in support of anti-colonialist struggles, and for indigenous peoples, such as the liberatory struggles that are Palestine these days. It is extremely important that we have this discussion. It is extremely important that we have this discussion because we also operate against the bows and flowers and superficialities of the Democratic National Convention, where people are told that the issue is we won't go back, the issue is democracy, and the issue is freedom. At the same time, out of 4 days of nonstop rhetoric, pre-rehearsed, pre-written, and put on teleprompters, that we couldn't even have one Palestinian speaker. So I just want to say that it is a strategic and important, and that we, the fourth estate, media, have an absolute obligation to fight for the heart and soul of a real democracy, an egalitarian democracy, where people have the right to expression and fight like hell to be able to create that beloved community that is so far missing from us now, and that is with the dismantling of capitalism. So make no mistake, this is a very partisan forum, and this is a very partisan group, if I may be so presumptuous to say, of very important people who are willing to fight for the heart and soul of media, and fight for it in the context of, again, representation of the people, and the people for a new world order that is egalitarian in nature and set upon really the establishment of a true democratic society. After all, workers of the world unite. Sorry, workers of the world unite. You do have nothing to lose but your chains and a world to win. And that's what I think this group of people stands for. And we now have a special obligation to kind of encapsulate the struggle for democracy, the real heart and soul, and a media that is willing no matter what it faces, to tell it like it is. And we have three guests that are extremely important to that battle. And the fact is that I will begin while we have Leonard Goodman, a people's lawyer. And I like to say that as somebody who's practiced law for 40 years and knows that there are too many people who are not servicing the needs of the people. Leonard Goodman is, and he will be with us to talk about the case of the Uhuru 3. And Scott Ritter has a bad habit of telling it like it is and has brought the wrath of the security state down upon him to do that. So he has a good deal to tell us. But I want to begin with Penny Hess, who I've been knowing for some 50 years now. And I've been knowing Penny in the context, and this must be said, not as a defendant per se from the Uhuru 3, fighting for the right against the use of the Espionage Act and labeling people as foreign agents and silencing the First Amendment and stuff. That's one of the things she's going to talk about today, but that's a result of 50 years of fight back as an anti-imperialist, as an anti-white supremacist, as an ally in support of the most important thing there is, and that is the support of self-determination for the African liberation struggle, and working within our communities to weed out the issues of and the opinions and policies and practice of white supremacy and indeed colonialism, and to educate around settler colonialism, which after all is the root of why we can't, as a people as a whole now, bring our full, robust support for a free Palestine from the river to the sea. Penny Hess, for your 50 years at least of work of an anti-imperialist, anti-white supremacist nature, and for your true support and understanding of the imperative of white allies supporting self-determination of the groups that they support, and that is the All African People's Socialist Party. Thank you for being our guest, and thank you for all the blood, sweat, and tears that you lovingly put in and couldn't do anything else, because that's who you are. Penny Hess, a defendant, but a shiro of the Uhuru 3.
Uhuru, Uhuru to everybody. And Mimi, thank you for that powerful introduction. I really want to salute Pacifica and Comrade Sheila Hamanaka, everybody who's on tonight, Scott Ritter, and I do want to salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is with us tonight, and I would like him to be able to give a few words tonight as well. I really want to welcome also one of our incredible legal team for the Uhuru 3, Attorney Leonard Goodman, who's just amazing and a free speech expert. So it's an honor to be on here with him as well. I want to also, Mimi, I want to really unite with your statement that this is a time when the struggle against colonialism is the main agenda, on the world today. And we see the incredible resistance, of course, of the Palestinian people, but also throughout Africa, and the resistance of African and indigenous Puerto Rican, Mexican, colonized peoples inside the borders of the United States to take on the colonial domination that's still, that we experience and see right here today. As was said, my name is Penny Hess. I am one of the Uhuru 3, which is led by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is the chair of the African People's Socialist Party that is working for and has worked for since the 1960s for the total liberation of Africa and African people everywhere, that African people must be free. Chairman Omali Yeshitela has also been responsible for popularizing and introducing to the world the concept of the demand for reparations to African people, having the goal in the late 70s to make reparations a household word when nobody had heard of it. And the chairman coordinated the incredible tribunal, first tribunal on reparations to African people that was held in Brooklyn in 1982 with representatives of every aspect of African life testifying to, to this genocide that African people have faced historically, but also today and continue to. And that tribunal made the demand for $4.1 trillion in 1982 dollars in reparations to African people. So I just wanted to, to say that. Also, of the Uhuru 3 is my comrade, Jesse Neville, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, just a powerful comrade. And myself, I am the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people formed by the African People's Socialist Party. And we work in the white communities, organizing other white people to recognize that we aren't free until African people are free, and that we can play a role in the strategy under the leadership of African liberation by going into the white community, which is what we have done for nearly 50 years, as Mimi has said, to say that we have a responsibility, and also we have the honor of being in genuine solidarity with the African liberation movement. So that's what we are doing. And just this work, this stand, is the real reason why Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru 3 were attacked very violently by the FBI in 7 coordinated raids, pre-dawn raids on July 29th, 2022, 5 a.m. in Central Time, 6 a.m. At properties and homes of members of the Uhuru movement, centers and offices of the Uhuru movement. Yes, on July 29th, 2022, pre-dawn raids, very violent, very, this is where they came to the chairman's house, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, his wife, the deputy chair of the party, Onizane Yeshitela. They zip tied their hands, handcuffed them, took them outside, had assault rifles, sightings at their chest as they came down the stairs with their hands up. Meanwhile, they're sending drones up into their house. And just did this also at my house, at Jesse Neville's house, and at the Uhuru Solidarity Center on Gravois Avenue in St. Louis, as well as the Uhuru House, the original Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida. So as well as at the home of Akile Ainai, who is the coordinator of the party's agitprop and the editor of the Burning Spear newspaper. So they did all of this at the same time everywhere, coming in armored vehicles with scores of agents, and just many of these agents holding assault rifles, as we said, and some of them with handguns that came, actually, I know in our house, they had both people with assault rifles in the house and people with handguns. And so, yeah, so this is what happened on July 29th, 2022. And an indictment followed by 9 months. They waited 9 months to give us an indictment. It came on April 18th, 2023. We are facing 15 years in prison. And we are charged with conspiracy and attempt to defraud the US government. We are said to be in violation of statute 18 USC 371, conspiring to commit an offense against the United States, and a second charge, acting as an agent of a foreign government that we didn't supposedly register for. This is absolutely absurd. We are completely, Chairman Omali Yeshitela is innocent. Why it, the indictment says that suddenly in the year 2014, he became a Russian agent after struggling for African liberation since the mid 1960s. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely
Penny, if I
ridiculous.
may, just as the kind of host prerogative here, given the time constraints,
Yeah,
if I may ask you one question and then maybe cede a few minutes with the rest of the folks'
absolutely.
permission to
Yeah,
Chairman Omali Yeshitela before we get to our people's lawyer, Leonard Goodman. I just
absolutely.
want to ask you one question.
Mhm.
So why did this happen? Why were you targeted specific? Why were you targeted? What does this represent? And what does this say about the state? What is the political context that we are operating in now?
Well, I think that is a really important question. And I want to say, first of all, when we look at the history of what this government has done to the African liberation movement, the Black liberation movement, with assassinations of more than 30 members of the Black Panther Party and others in the 1960s, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the attacks even before that on W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey. This is what this government has done. Anytime African people stand up for political power, for gaining political power over their lives. The attacks on Jesse and myself are part of the attacks on the chairman, because we are under the leadership, we are part of the ability for the African liberation movement to have allies and friends within the white community. And so therefore it is an attempt to intimidate white people who would give reparations and stand in solidarity with the African liberation movement.
All
But like you said, I do want to open it up for a few minutes to Chairman Omali
Well,
Yeshitela.
let's us assume that. I do want to ask the group's permission to do that.
Okay,
Uh,
sure.
Again, because there are time constraints on the overall forum, we have candidates who are going to
Okay.
be speaking to their issues. And of course, we want to bring this all together with the issue of us as media, what we can do to
Right.
facilitate both the findings in favor and make sure these prosecutions don't continue. This is one of the most important cases of our decade in terms of the license of people to be political dissenters and to fight for egalitarianism. So do we have permission to bring Chairman Yeshitela in for a couple of minutes? Why don't we just go to your more thing and just signify by a raise of hands?
Just go ahead.
Okay, then let me just say, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, it is a pleasure. It is an honor for your decades and decades and decades of fighting the good fight for self-determination for African people, for fighting the fight for socialism and fighting for a far better world for all of us. Thank you for being with us, and freedom indeed. And we are with you to make sure that the charges are frankly dropped. Omali Yeshitela, one of the true leaders of people for right and good and social justice, great humanitarian. Thank you for being our guest today.
Uhuru, thank you, Comrade Mimi. I want to express my appreciation to you, WBAI, to all of the incredible forces who are with us in this meeting today. Scott Ritter, Comrade Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville, and the fabulous Leonard Goodman, the incredible lawyer who has filed most of the motions calling on the government to dismiss these ridiculous charges that they've made against us. So I want to just say that first of all. And secondly, what I want to say is that we are innocent of the charges that the United States government has made against us. That is fallacious. That our lawyer, Leonard Goodman, has in his motion to dismiss the charges, has acknowledged the fact that that for the purpose of defense, that we have to say, even if we did do it, it was covered by the Constitution, the First Amendment. We didn't do what they said they did. It was totally fabricated, and it's historical in terms of how they treat us. But when I say us, I'm talking about the history of the attack on the African liberation movement in this country. So we didn't do it. And they make the assumption by saying black, 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 Russia, 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 that they can poison the atmosphere enough with white people in particular who would be willing to convict without any kind of evidence. Everything they charge us with is speech. No acts of violence, no drug smuggling, no hostage holding, no violence, but they came to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning using flashbang grenades. They intimidated my wife, myself. They sent drones into my house. They had laser targeting devices on assault weapons pointing at my chest, dots, these red dots on my chest, the kind of thing you see in the movies. And I knew they were going to kill me like they had done Fred Hampton early in the morning in 1969 in Chicago. So we didn't do it. That's first of all. Secondly, I really want everybody to know that right now we're engaged in what we call Freedom Summer 2024. And it takes its name, Freedom Summer, from Freedom Summer in Mississippi in 1964. And it's with that spirit. And we are working on the ground every day in St. Petersburg, Florida now, mobilizing people for what's going to be an extraordinary event on the 31st of August. People are coming from all around the country to stand in solidarity and to make a statement, public statement, vocally letting the state know we know what it is that you're doing and that it is not we who are the criminals, but the ones who, in fact, we are the defenders of the First Amendment. At a time where the First Amendment and democratic rights were the Bill of Rights under assault, we find ourselves in this extraordinary place of having to defend the Bill of Rights from the very government itself, to defend the right to free speech, the First Amendment from the government. So that is, people will be coming in on August 31st. We call it a free speech, anti-colonial free speech mobilization, and people will be coming from every place, like Charles Barron. We will have various other people will be coming in organizations. And finally, we want to get people to the trial on February 3rd. We want everybody to be in Tampa, Florida. We want to have a situation.
September 3rd, Chairman, September 3rd.
September 3rd, yeah. So if it's necessary, they can have to hold this trial in a stadium. We want that many people to be here. That we think is incredibly important that the government recognizes that the people know what's going on. That they cannot do this legal lynching in the dark, that everybody's watching. And so that's part of what it, and people are coming into St. Petersburg now. We are people on the streets, people are organizing, people going door to door. And St. Petersburg, Florida is just across the bridge from Tampa, Florida, where the trial is going to happen. But I'm in the house right now that was raided on July 29th.
Omali, can you wrap up? Because we're running late.
I'm wrapped up.
Okay.
If I may, Eleanor, I want to make sure that our chairman gives that final information about where people can go, what they can do. That's the point of all this. So please, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and then we will move on to the people's lawyer servicing human needs, Leonard Goodman. So Chairman, please just give us that final, where do we go? What do we do?
Please go to Hands Off Uhuru, UHURU.org, handsoffuhuru.org. Get information. Freedom Summit is happening now. Everybody can come in, go to work now. Everybody should be here on the 31st of August, and everybody should be with us in Tampa, Florida on September 3rd. Thank you so very much for allowing me to use this time. Thank you.
And
Uhuru.
we really are honored. We have an activists in the House who've committed their lives, their souls to their people and to the struggle for human rights for all of us. Thank you, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And it's so good to have lawyers It's so good to have lawyers in the House who are willing to commit to themselves to do more than self-aggrandizement and monetary consideration. And at a time when we do have a rising McCarthyism, where people are being subpoenaed for their positions on ceasefire in universities, in community-based organizations, and so on,
Mimi?
before committees. And I want to thank and bring on and talk about how you sew together the politics of the Uhuru movement, of the All African People's Socialist Party, with a legal defense. And that's what we are doing now. We are defending to strengthen, if anything, the law and show the chicanery of the U.S. government indictment. Leonard Goodman.
Thank you, Mimi. Yes, of course, it's a challenge, but as the chairman said and Penny said, the thing we have going for us is our clients are innocent. They're not agents of Russia. They've been saying the same message. They've been advocating the same issues for 50 years. They're anti-war, they're anti-colonialist, they're anti-NATO, they're anti-US intervention in other countries. Nothing has changed. And so that helps a lot when you have an innocent client. This is a very dangerous case. It's a direct assault on the core of the First Amendment, which protects political speech and the right to dissent. If we lose that, we have no democracy. And that's why it's such an important case. And in fact, I would say the government is trying to create a Russia exception to the First Amendment. If what you say aligns with Russia, then it's not protected speech. That's really the essence of their case. What this sort of began in February and March of 2022, when Omali and Penny and the rest of the organization was doing what they've been doing for 50 years. That is, they were out on the streets and they were advocating issues that don't align with the US government. They took positions on the conflict in Ukraine that contradicted the official position of the Biden administration, which was that this was an unprovoked invasion. Putin's a madman and he's trying to take over Ukraine and next Western Europe. So, and that was repeated by the mainstream press again and again in a shocking fashion. The New York Times just repeated the talking points of the Biden administration. So Omali's out on the street holding rallies, and then a few months later, they are visited by SWAT teams from the FBI. And that's really what this case is about. I'm honored to represent Penny. I'm honored to be a part of it. I've learned so much from this experience. And, we're preparing for trial as our clients have expressed. We're picking a jury September 3rd. It's expected to last at least 3 weeks. So it's a tremendous endeavor. We have great lawyers on the case, and I'm proud to be part of that team. So I just want to say thank you all for your support, and thank you for paying attention to this issue, because it's been pretty much ignored in the mainstream press. So thank you.
Truly one of the most important cases, certainly in the last decade, along with the case of Julian Assange and so on. These cases are one of the same, and they are a thorough attack on self-determination and any dissent from the militarist policies of our government. And we need to know that. And I want to just bring on Scott Ritter now, because this is almost of the same thing. This is a renewed kind of red baiting, and again, a chauvinization by saying that groups such as the African People's Socialist Party do not have their own integrity, their own determination, their own intellect to be able to determine whom they should relate to, who their allies are, and how they cast their positions for the liberation of their people. So critically important. Thank you and to the Fight Back group for doing these forums. And one last thing before we bring on Scott Ritter, and you can do it in the chat. Every one of us should be prepared to host a forum with people from the Uhuru 3 to talk about how we can both raise the funds and raise the intellect and knowledge of the broader populace as to the importance of this case. So why don't you do that, and we'll kind of collect them, see where we can facilitate setting up, indeed using the radio station at Pacifica even more to make sure the voices of the Uhuru 3 are heard, the African People's Socialist Party for their ongoing work. And thank you all. And Scott Ritter, yeah, it looks like you've been dragnetted into the process too. The outrageous slings and arrows of government by virtue of being a dissenter or having any empathy or positions that either tell it like it is against the propaganda of the security state and any consideration for any other governments or the fact that we have a world that we live in to support as well. Scott Ritter, thank you for the work that you've done. Thank you for your anti-militarist stance. And it's a pleasure to have you with us as well on this very critical issue. As I must say that people may not know, but just the other day, the FBI had raided your house again with the same dangling of this red baiting and anti-Russia phobia kind of nonsense. So thank you, Scott Ritter, and let's hear your story so that we can build support for you.
Well, first of all, Mimi, thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this important discussion. I want to send out my appreciation and my support to Penny Hess, to Omali, Yeshitela, and to Leonard Goodman. This case, the Uhuru 3, I've been aware of it for some time. But it really didn't resonate until the FBI showed up at my house. Let me just point out something about backgrounds. I am not a socialist. I am not an activist. I am not really politically active like the Uhuru movement and yourself, Mimi. I mean, I respect this, but I come from a more conservative background. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express, and I didn't play one on TV. What I am is an American citizen, and I'm somebody who took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign, and here's the most important part, and domestic, because we do have domestic enemies to the Constitution of the United States today, and that is the US government and the way they are behaving in this egregious frontal assault on the most basic and I would say the most important right we have as Americans, and that's freedom of speech and a free press. And Leonard, I am going to, with your permission, I'm going to steal and use extensively the notion of the Russian exception, because I think you've hit the real problem on the head here. Is there free speech in America? Of course, people say, of course. The FBI agents, when they came to my house, they said, well, I said, why are you here? They said, well, we have concerns about things you've been saying and doing. And I said, what about free speech? They said, of course, we're here. We believe in free speech, but we believe that you're in violation of the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And here's the exception that I went out of that what makes my case different, I believe. I said, you do know that I'm a journalist. And they said, yes. And I said, well, then who the hell are you? I didn't say who the hell are you, but I said, who are you to define journalism? I mean, you don't have no right whatsoever to have any concern over what I say and do as a journalist, let alone as an American citizen. Free speech is free speech. We understand there are limits to it. You can't stand up in a crowded theater and shout fire. But the core, and again, all Penny, Leonard, and Mimi all hit on this. The most important aspect of free speech is to liberate the American citizen to hold his or her representative accountable for what they do in their name. Political speech must be free. You must be able to dissent. You must be able to put a marker on the table and say, this is where I stand in opposition to you. This is our right as Americans. Otherwise, we live in a dictatorship. We live under the rule of tyranny. And this is where we must all unite, because it doesn't matter where you come from on the political spectrum here in the United States. You know, I can disagree with people and people can disagree with me freely, and many people do disagree with me. But the key thing isn't to suppress dissent. If somebody else has ideas and you oppose them, come up with better ideas. Engage in a debate, a dialogue, a discussion. That's what the democratic process is supposed to be about. And yet when it comes to Russia, the United States government wants to suppress this, wants to silence dissent. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I've been reading up. New York Times versus the United States, 1971. The Pentagon Papers case, Daniel Ellsberg. One of the concurring opinions was written by Justice Hugo Black. And he said of paramount importance is the ability through free speech, through a free press, to publish information that counters the deception of the government when it comes to sending Americans off to die in foreign lands of foreign shot and foreign shell. When we speak of Ukraine and the conflict in Ukraine, which I am opposed to, when the Uhuru 3 is opposed to, many people here are opposed to, we are speaking about the potential of Americans going to war. And our government is lying to us, and they admit they're lying to us. Maybe the Russian exception also gives them the ability to lie. The US government has said that they are declassifying intelligence information that they know is wrong to put it out in the mainstream media to deceive the American people, to get ahead of a Russian narrative. If the US government is admitting deception, isn't it not the duty and responsibility of a free press to expose this deception and put alternative facts out there, to put a different perspective out there? That's what we're supposed to do. And I'm being punished for this. I'm being punished for daring to challenge the official narrative. And Omali and Penny, you're being punished for daring to challenge the official narrative as well. This is the most important fight of our age. This is about the ability of the United States to continue to exist, at least theoretically, as a constitutional republic, as a nation where representative democracy, at least theoretically, exists. If the government wins in this case against the Uhuru 3, it's the end of free speech in America. It is literally the end of the United States of America. This is the existential issue of our time. So I'm going to leave it with this. Penny, Mimi, Leonard, and Omali, I'd like to invite you to come on my podcast. I'd like to give you a voice. I'd like to allow you to talk to the audience that I have. I'd like to do the best I can to provide a megaphone for your case, because your case is my case. Your case is every American case. You are, at this point in time, America's last hope. You are the battle for the heart and soul of America. You are the battle for free speech, for a free press. You are the battle for having the Constitution have any meaning. This is the fight of our time, and I'm on your side.
Scott Ritter, Penny Hess, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru indeed, and courage. We are with you. And this is a time now where we're going to open it up to our audience. We're just asking people to raise their hand and we'll open things up. There is just a little bit of a caveat here, and we understand and we expect people to respect this. This is not the time for speechifying. It is the time to respect our guests and put directly to them your particular question, and to make room for the broad numbers of people who've joined us to have their say and response towards the end of supporting really these courageous individuals who live their lives and do their work unabashed by the consequences sometimes. So we're here to be their allies. So we're going to open it up now, and then we're going to just give 2 minutes for the Scott Ritter in the final analysis, Penny Hess, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela to come back and round it up for us before we get into part 2, which will be a pronouncement from some of the candidates who both worked on this forum and are there to make sure that Pacifica remains not only a democratic, but an egalitarian institution by the people, for the people. So the hands I see up are Sister Betty Davis. Why don't we start then? And then Felipe, I'll just pick a couple. Felipe Messina, Janet Cobrin, and my brother Marlo. So we'll start with you folks and continue. So Sister Betty Davis from the New York area.
All right, all right. I am so happy to be here tonight. And I know everybody here understands that this is an example of what WBAI is about and why they should make a donation, because WBAI saves lives. I know they helped bring Lynn home in time to be with her family. And I know they helped air Mamiya's voice at a time when nobody else is. And so now they're doing the same for the Uhuru 3. But my question is to Chairman Omali Yeshitela. If they're so concerned with free speech, why did they shut down the doulas that you tried to provide for the community in St. Louis, where the infant mortality rate is so high that if the babies had lived, it would have filled 15 kindergarten classes each year? Can you explain that one to me? What the hell has that got to do with free speech?
I think what it has to do with free speech is that it shows that there is an alternative to what's being offered to us by the Democratic Party, particularly the Democratic Party, but the Republican Party as well, that people can get engaged in their communities and can make amazing transformation if there's not this intervention by the United States government. So the fact is that if we can do this with no resources, and we've changed, we have something like 50 some odd different independent economic development projects. We have transformed North St. Louis already. We built a $160,000 basketball court for Black children who play in the streets, dodging cars and that kind of thing. If you mentioned the doulas, we have a women's center that's being built. We have a program for African men and women when they come out of prison. We've bought housing to house them while they participate in training in the culinary arts and things like that. So I think that we set an example that exposes the stance of the government toward Black people and show that there is an alternative, that we don't have to be waiting and we don't have to be begging and we don't have to report on Joe or Kamala. So I think that's part of what it's all about, that it's an embarrassment to the government. But again, the question is, the free speech issue is really important, because when they attack my right to speak, they're doing more than just attacking me. They're attacking your right to hear. And that's a critical thing. They don't want people to hear ideas that's different from the ideas that's put forth by the government. That's what this whole fourth estate that somebody just mentioned is supposed to be about. That's what we were doing with the burningspearnews.com. So that's Sister Betty. Thank you so much. That's my response. Uhuru.
Looking forward to hearing more on Wednesday night, August 28th, 8 p.m. EST.
Right on.
Another courageous freedom fighter, Betty Davis. Felipe Messina, it's yours, my brother. All you have to do is unmute.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to speak. I'll try to mirror the speaking time limits observed thus far. Let me know if I exceed the time limits, please. My name is Felipe Messina. My friends call me Phil. I am a 2024 KPFA Local Station Board candidate running with the Rescue Pacifica Caucus.
If I may, I think that's the second part of the program that we're not there yet.
Okay.
That this was for questions for Hess and the chairman and Scott Ritter.
Okay. Well, let me ask
if you have a specific question, and there will be a whole hour to people such as yourself who are candidates.
Yeah, let me ask a direct question then to any of the speakers who will answer it. What role does the Pacifica Radio Network play in defending our nation against enemies, foreign and domestic, and against defending our ability to dissent, and against defending us against unjust raids by the government?
I think it's happening right now. I think that this is a critical role that's being played by this radio station, has been for ages. Mimi probably remembers, I have been to that radio station in New York, long time ago, and so I think it's doing it right now. People have a right to hear. They don't necessarily have to agree, but they cannot make informed decisions. They cannot come to informed opinions unless they have access to information. There can be no democracy if there's not an informed population. So I think this is what is happening now. The right to speak, the right to challenge the narrative of the state, of the government. Uhuru.
And I believe it was my sibling Marlo and then Janet Coburn next.
Hey, Sister Mimi. Yes,
Hey.
you're as adorable as usual. First, I just want to say to Scott, welcome. You're part of the revolution now. And I have two questions for you, and I have one question for our Chairman Omali. My first question to you, Scott, and I definitely appreciate and value everything that you've done, is in the long run, is it possible that the Russians are losing? Meaning they're winning the battles, but they're going to lose the war from the standpoint that now you have a bigger geographic NATO footprint with Sweden and Finland joining NATO. So that's my first question. And then my second question is, through other podcasts, I've heard that there are about 2,000 Russians in Iran right now. And I wanted to know if you could talk about the Russian influence, Russian and Asian, Chinese influence in the Middle East. And then for Chairman Omali, I'm humbled to be here on the same Zoom call as you. And I was wondering if you could share with the group your concept of whiteness as a social construct that is part of this totalitarian fascist state that we're living under, colonial settler state that we're living under.
So who should go?
Got rid of, take it. Those are
Okay.
pretty
Well,
global
I'll-
questions, but you're up to it.
I'll go quickly. Is Russia losing or in danger of losing? You could make that point, but I'll rephrase it this way. Russia can't lose, and I'll tell you why. Because this is an existential issue for Russia. And this is why I speak out. People keep saying, Scott, you're pro-Russian, I'm not pro-Russian. I'm pro-American. I'm as American as you can get. I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm friendly to Russia. I believe in good relations with Russia. I believe that the best way to avoid a nuclear war is to learn how to talk with Russia and work things out peacefully and not seek the military option through NATO. Russia can't lose, because if Russia loses, we go to nuclear war and then we all die. So this isn't about the danger of Russia losing. I don't do what I do to prevent a Russian defeat. I do what I do to prevent nuclear war. I do what I do to ensure that we don't head down a path where NATO pushes Russia too far and the nuclear weapons start to fly and we all die. That's my number one priority. As to the Russian and Chinese footprint in the Middle East, look, the irresponsible policies of the United States and Israel in the Middle East have created a real danger of expanded conflict in that region. Russia has, in the aftermath of the Israeli assassination of a senior Hamas official in Tehran, the first thing Russia did is fly in a tremendous amount of modern weaponry. This is weaponry that changes the equation altogether in case of an Israeli attack, but it's weaponry that Iran is not ready to operate. And so this weaponry that is defending Iran right now, that is changing the paradigm, is being operated by Russians, which now also brings in the new equation. If Israel were to, or the United States were to attack Iran and seek to take out these defenses, they'd have to engage Russian soldiers, which means they're engaging Russia. Now we come back to what I talked about before, which means nuclear war. So we live in very, very, very dangerous times. And it's absolutely essential that we, in the press, challenge the narrative of the United States so that the American people can discern for themselves. This is where Chairman Omali Yeshitela is 100% correct. We need to trust the American people to be able to discern right from wrong, fact from fiction, to make up their own. But they can only do that if they're presented with the totality of information. And when the US government is suppressing information and deceiving, then it's our job as the fourth estate to put forward alternative facts so that the American people can judge for themselves, not because we're pro-Russian, but because we're pro-American.
Chairman Yeshitela, and then we're going to go to Janet Cobran and Elizabeth Milos.
Thank you. I just want to appreciate the comments that's made by Scott that being, intelligence is not restricted to nationality. That you want to stay alive, you want to keep the world alive, you want to intervene in processes that's killing the world, and that's part of the reason that I'm involved in this movement, because we talk about the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights and things like that, which were ratified by the United States government in 1791. 1791, Black people under the lash had no such things as rights. In fact, as recently as 1857, following that, the Supreme Court of the United States, the same Supreme Court that we are talking about having to deal with at this very moment, declared that Black men had no rights that a white man had to respect. And that wasn't changed by another court decision. That was changed by a civil war. And the Civil War said that we were supposed to be free with that. But of course, that didn't happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't have needed a 1964 civil rights bill and a 1966-65 voting rights bill that Biden was opposed to. Well, not the civil rights bill anyway. So from our perspective, Comrade Marlowe, the fact of the matter is that we characterize the mode of production that we experience, the whole world, not just Black people, as a colonial mode of production that came into existence some 600 years ago when Portugal first attacked Africa. Before then, there was no such thing as Europe. There was no such thing as Black people, white people, anything like that. In fact, most of the people who now consider themselves Europeans identify themselves primarily in relationship to each other as Celts, as Normans, as, you name all of the diverse kinds of groups. But it was only the slavery and the get rich quick that came with slavery and colonialism that this group now identifies themselves in relationship to the rest of us who were being enslaved and colonized. And this is where you have the emergence first of Europe that did not even exist. You have the emergence of the white man. The white man is born from that process as a concept, and that's the thing that's trapped a lot of people in a horrible kind of ideological situation that, believe it or not, we're in the process now breaking out of, because people all around the world refuse to live under that construct anymore. With all the guns and flashbang grenades that they have, the people are not going to live like that anymore. And that's what Scott's talking about, that threats the whole world in terms of you can't hold the world at gunpoint. You can't hold the world and say that if you don't do what we say, we'll bomb you into oblivion, as they have said over and over again. The people are going to be free. And I'm going to be in the front of the line, trying to make that happen. Thank you, Brother Marlowe.
My dear sibling Janet, and then Elizabeth, and thank you, Scott. Thank you, Chairman Yeshitela.
Yeah, thank you both, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you, Mimi. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. This is a great program, and I just wanted to remind everybody that this is not on the air right now on the 5 Pacifica sister stations. I live in Oakland, California, and I'm a former local station board member from KPFA in Berkeley, and a former Pacifica National Board Director and former PNB Secretary. Scott, I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you in person back in March 2023 when you were going to be out here on a tour. I'd announced it during a call-in part of a popular show on KPFA and had to call back again a week later to announce the cancellation. In any case, it turns out the venue that had been rented did not go to waste. as the reservation was used last October when the Uhuru 3 came to Oakland. I have had the honor of meeting Penny and Omali in person. That said, I have a quick yes or no question for Scott and another broader question for all. So Scott, when the SMO started, I contacted several programmers at KPFA to interview you. The question is, were you ever invited to appear on any of the programs at KPFA? And then the broader question has to do with the growing silencing of journalists and activists who talk about things the US and other Western governments and the dominant media don't like. Recently, there was a week-long suspension of Judge Napolitano by YouTube.
You're at 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Wrap up.
can I just finish the sentence? Yeah.
Sure.
For so-called hate speech. And then the latest attack I'm aware of was the August 15th arrest of renowned independent British journalist Richard Medhurst for doing his job. Would all of you care to comment on this and how it relates to your separate struggles? Thank you.
Well, I'll start with the broad answer. No, I can't recall anybody reaching out. What I can say is that I receive thousands of emails a day, and that it's possible that an email either went to spam or somehow I didn't see it. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody reached out to me. I'm not aware of anybody reaching out to me.
Or by phone.
But nobody definitely reached out by phone. And I'll just quick say about Richard Medhurst. First of all, I'm going to have him on my show early next week to talk to him about this, to get more information and to compare and contrast our war stories. We just have to be careful. Richard is being prosecuted under British law. It's not, he doesn't have the same First Amendment protections we do. So we even though it's a travesty what's happening to him, and we have to speak up in defense of him, especially here, journalists. Journalism can never be suppressed in a free society. We have to be careful about trying to draw too many parallels, because it is a different legal system with different laws, and so it's not going to be exactly parallel to what's happening here in the United States.
I'm not sure anybody, either Chairman Yeshitela or Penny, wants to respond to this second part of what was Janet Coburn's question. If not, Elizabeth Milos was next, and then I see also our wonderful Michael Novak's hand is there to go next, and we'll try to figure out who caller and user number 1 is, who also has a hand raised to participate. So, Elizabeth, it's yours.
Hi, I'd like to ask 2 questions, if possible, only if there's enough time. My name is Elizabeth Milos. I'm a member of the KPFA LSB from the Rescue Pacifica. I would like to ask the panelist, what would you say to the quote progressives that are on the KPFA LSB and their supporters about who try to justify the use of the federal government to attack Pacifica, like those who are running on the protector slate who filed the FCC petition to deny WBAI its license, and especially given the US government's targeting of Pacifica during these past 75 years and red baiting it and basically trying to close it down. Apparently, even this attack that they did against WBAI ended up also putting the entire network at risk, and 3 of the 5 stations have not been able to fundraise as a result. So I would like to know what you think about the use of the federal government against Pacifica, which is apparently what these progressives, quote unquote progressives, are using. That's one question. The yeah, let's start from there.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I
Free
think
speech isn't free unless,
I think
I'm sorry.
Scott got the first word in there,
Go
and
ahead.
Chairman Yeshitela next.
free speech isn't free unless everybody gets to speak freely.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with the speech. You have to defend the right to speak. That's the most important thing. I think sometimes people conflate, I don't like what they're saying, therefore I'm going to try to silence them. That's just not right. Not in America. You don't have to support their ideas. You don't. But if you call yourself a progressive and you call yourself, somebody who believes in progressive ideals, the most progressive ideal is free speech. It's the most conservative ideal is free speech. The most American ideal is free speech. And it doesn't work if you allow outlets to die. We should promote all possible venues of free speech in America, not because we support what they're saying, but we support their right to say it. If we disagree with what they're saying, then it's our duty to come up with better ideas and put them out there and challenge them back, to push back. But it's not right to suppress, to silence. To suppress and to silence dissenting voices, voices you disagree with, is a slippery slope to tyranny.
Can I follow up with a second question?
Could we have the response from Chairman Yeshitela?
Oh,
And
I'm
I'm
sorry.
already
Yeah, I
being
forgot. Yes, please.
chastised about time constraints,
Sorry.
which I'm a little bit more flexible on than some. But I'd like
Thank you.
to.
I forgot. I'm sorry. Yes.
No, thanks. And then we have
Thank
our
you,
dear
Chairman.
friend
Yeah,
Michael.
I think
And
Scott was a splendid response. And when they attacked us, we said to the world that this is the canary in the coal mine.
Mhm.
They come, it's gonna happen, everybody was hit, right after that. So thank you for that response. By the
Brother
way,
Michael Novak.
Goodman, our lawyer, I just want to add that
Oh.
he's taken on this case pro bono. So that's another statement, because we've spent more than $300,000 already on this case and still spending. But Goodman took the case pro bono.
Can I just add one thing to that? One of the tactics of the U.S. government when carrying out attacks of this nature is not to win on the merits, but to exhaust the defense, to
Yes.
drag it out and to bankrupt them.
Yes.
And what happens is that your legal defense weakens, because if lawyers take on a case for money, it's about the money, not about the merits. And when you run out of money, their arguments deteriorate. To have a lawyer the quality of Leonard Goodman take this case on pro bono is brilliant, but I'm sorry that you had to spend so much money in defense of what is literally an attack on our freedoms. Every American should rally to your cause. Every American should pour money into your defense, because this isn't about defending you. You are the canary in the coal mine. This is about defending us. This is a battle we can't lose. So again, I will do my best to help you. I'm late to the game. I apologize about that, but I'm in the game now.
Right on.
And I see Penny Hess, who's had her hand up, and I don't know if you want to respond, and then we're going to go to Michael Novak. We're going to go to call in user number 1, and then J.A. De Palma, and then I'm just going to take Alejandrina Murphy, who's in the house, and then I'm going to take the temperature of the audience, because I am being told that we are supposed to be moving to our second part of the forum. So I ask people to be both considerate of that, but I refuse to allow the time to be tyrannical over such important issues. So I hope it's okay. Let's get those questions in. And then I would like to give at least a minute and a half or 2 minutes to Scott Ritter, Penny Hess, Chairman Omali, Yeshitela, to wind up with how we can assist them and continue to support them. Michael Novak.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I put it in the chat. I just want to recognize that today is the commemoration of the Chicano moratorium here in Los Angeles, and otherwise, I think comrades from Unión del Barrio here in California would be on the call. They're a sister organization for many years to the African People's Socialist Party and strong supporters of the Uhuru 3. And I did want to ask Penny and Chairman Omali, I know we're talking about freedom of speech in general, but if you could say more about the concept of freedom of anti-colonial speech, because I think that people don't always recognize the extent to which this is a step of colonial society and imposing colonialism on indigenous people on this continent and around the world. So if you could say a little bit more about that, I think it's really pertinent. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make, thank you for that. I just want to say that I mentioned the fact that when the Bill of Rights and First Amendment were ratified by the United States Congress, African people were living under colonial slavery. So it wasn't for us that it was written. It was written for those people who claimed that they were running from tyranny and what have you in Europe, and they were running from things like the divine right of kings, where laws didn't have to speak to all the people. And what's not understood by many people is they pick someone that they think is unpopular to the general white population because the colonized people are spoken of in such despicable and humiliating ways within the colonial government that they train people to hate, the colonized people. And so what happens is they use this and they use us as the vehicle to attack the First Amendment. But it's not my First Amendment. It's not Black people's First Amendment. It's the First Amendment, those people, those white people who were trying to make sure that nothing like that ever happened to them again. And as it turns out, what is happening is that they win the freedom to oppress, because it's the First Amendment that prohibits the Leonard Peltier is still in prison. And African people, this attack that's been made on us, the Mexicans who are in the cages in the border around this country, nobody can speak up. The Palestinians, nobody can speak out. Colonized people cannot speak. And so that's a critical question, anti-colonial free speech, and then to win everybody to unite with that, recognizing that that's the thing that all of us are trapped with. If they can do this to the colonized, they got everybody. And people will sometimes applaud the oppression of these Black people who support Russia, etc. And I see sometimes even people who are progressives and our friends who will accept attacks on free speech, will accept, well, the FBI should be able to do such and such a thing in our defense when they're attacking free speech. That's not appropriate. And I know I did a poor response to it, Michael, but that's how we understand it. Uhuru.
Caller in user number 1, J.A. De Palma, then, and Penny, why don't you wind up with that? Because I'm again getting the ferocious signals of the tyrannical clock. And of course, Ali, I'm sorry, you'll get your question in as well. And if I may, Felipe, since I see your hand up, if you could just hold your question and incorporate it into your candidate statement in the second part, I think it'll give you the opportunity, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So with that,
thank you, Mimi.
Our caller in user number 1, if you could tell us who you are.
Okay.
Yes, this is Jonathan Markowitz in Los Angeles. I'm a KPFK listener member. I'm very much appreciative of the introductory remarks by Scott Ritter and Omali. And the issue of free speech, this couldn't be more important. And I also want to I have a question for the attorney, Leonard Goodman, about the charges in regards to the Uhuru 3, as well as Scott Ritter's, although I don't think you're Scott's attorney. However, I'm curious as to the parameters. I know this is getting into the weeds a bit, but the parameters of the charges that are being levied against the Uhuru 3 in regards to Russia, and are these charges articulated in terms of any particular action or any particular
representative role that either the Uhuru 3 and or Scott Ritter, in other words, how could these statutes supersede the principles of our First Amendment, as you have all very effectively articulated? This couldn't be more important than any other issue. Thank you
Jonathan,
very
I
much.
think that some of that was answered, but why don't we give that to Penny Hess? Our attorney has left, but I frankly
Okay.
don't think we need an attorney to be able to answer that. Chairman Yeshitela did already, Penny, but why don't you go and respond, Penny? And then, as I said, we'll go to Ali Murphy and J.A. De Palma, and then try to wrap up this segment as much as we hate to. Penny, just have to unmute.
I have to unmute. Thank you so much, Mimi. I really appreciate you and WBAI. And this has been powerful. I want to salute Scott Ritter and, of course, my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I appreciate that question. And I would urge you and everyone to go to handsoffuhuru.org. You can read the indictment. That's one of the things that's up there. And the
Can you
indictment.
do that one more time? Do it slowly one more time so people make sure that they write it down and do that.
Yes,
Where do we go?
HANDS, hands off Uhuru, UHURU, at Gmail, no, I'm sorry, .com. .org.
All right, one more time from the top.
Chairman, go ahead and say it.
No, Michael Novick has it in the.
Oh, he put it in there. Yeah, it's in the chat.
Yeah.
Hands off
www.handsoffUhuru.org.
Yes, and just to say really quickly and to reiterate, absolutely nothing but speech. This is a precedent-setting case. No, our lawyers have never seen anything like it, because in the past, it has been something like this, speech plus something. They are only charging us on speech. And this is, as Scott Ritter has said, as Chairman Omali Yeshitela has said, if we are convicted, there will not be the First Amendment as we know it in this country. And that's why it's really, really important that people support it. I just want to say that the Uhuru movement is having a powerful, huge rally on Saturday, August 3rd, leading up to the trial. August 31st, leading up to the trial in St. Petersburg, Florida. You know, everybody from Mukasa Ricks of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Afia and Gwanza, many civil libertarians, you know, just many people will be there, and just inviting you to be there. Come on out. Scott Ritter, if you can come, that would be a powerful, powerful thing. This is going to be Saturday, August 31st, St. Petersburg, Florida. Also, our trial begins on Tuesday, September 3rd in the Middle District Federal Courthouse of Tampa. And we learned today from our attorneys that they've already gotten a much bigger courtroom because they know a lot of people are going to come. And, you know, we want to pack that courtroom. We want everybody to be there that can be there. We've got to show them that the people stand with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the right to anti-colonial free speech. And we're going to win. We are winning. And, you know, I just want to say Uhuru. Thank you so much for the show.
J.A. De Palma, and then Ali, and we're going to take it to the next segment.
Thank you very much, Mimi, for having this, and thank you very much for giving me a chance to speak. I want to thank Scott Ritter. I believe he's a real patriot. I believe people that are against the war will always be attacked in this country because we have a military country. It's sad, but that's the way it is, Scott. I apologize for our country because I know you're a patriot. I know you're a Marine, and I don't think you would ever undersell the United States. but the United States undersells itself it pretty much. And Chairman Omali, I heard about your circumstance on Democracy Now. There are bits of information that come through Pacifica or into New York about both your situations, but what they did to shut you down and the way they attacked you unfairly for speech, I hear. And that's wrong. And obviously, I think in the end, when the facts are known, you'll be vindicated, of course. The observation that I have is really directed at people that don't maybe appreciate how difficult it is for Americans to address what's really going on in America. Not only the militarization, not only the drumbeat to war, not only half the budget goes to militarization, that we give the weapons to other people so they'll do the killing for us, but much more importantly, just remember what happened to Julian Assange. They will try to shut you up, and they will many times go out of their way to break the law. Something that Randy Credico plays on the start of his show many times, and it's really from William Kunstler, where he says, you know, they don't really they hesitate to use legal means to shut you up. They did it to Sacco and Vanzetti. They did it to Jesus. They did it in Germany. So I think we have to all be very aware about the precarious nature and the fundamental internal conflicts that are ridden through Pacifica that we can't allow, because this is all we have in the United States. We're not going to get this from CBS or the New York Times. I don't expect to hear this on the television.
Your time
And
is up.
thank you very much. Scott, thank you very much. I consider you an American patriot.
And Ali, we're going to end this segment with you, and that's Alejandrina Murphy from the New York area.
Thank you, Mimi. I hope that the group is not upset at what I'm going to say. This has been the best town hall that Fight Back had. I mean, really excellent town hall. Yes, and thank you to all the guests, to Penny Hess, to Chairman Omali, Yeshitela, and Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter, I just wanted to tell you that there is a Occupy group that we still meet on Sunday, and I easily, when I come back with information, I easily just give the name. So I just wanted to say that. But my question is to you, being that they went to your house and they took, I guess, computer and all the items, do you think you're going to be indicted? Because remember, with the Uhuru 3, it took 9 months for them to be indicted. Do you think that you're going to be indicted? And another thing is, are you prepared financially if you get indicted? Because as you said, that is one of the things they'd like to drain you. And in this country, they wanted to financially drain you. And when they go to other countries like Venezuela, they put those sanctions to drain them too. So yeah, that is one of the things, is to destroy you financially. I mean, money is not everything, but money, we do need money to survive. Thank you very much. And thanks for being here.
Well, since you asked the question, I'll answer it. Let me put it this way. If the Uhuru 3 win their trial, I won't be indicted, because they can't indict me because of the precedent that will be set by the victory of the Uhuru 3 over the tyranny of the Department of Justice. They picked the Uhuru 3 for a reason, because they don't look like me. You see, they come out of a white person first, free speech resonates. The chairman is 100% correct. They picked not just Black people, but the worst kind of Black people to white America, militant Black people. Black people are seeking to hold white America accountable for its past behavior, in the hopes that white America will not rally around this cause. Because free speech, of course, can't be for Black militants. It can't be. They don't have the right of free speech. Free speech is only for people that look like me. And this is a deliberate tactic, because look at what they've done. I want to get into lawyer business, but the US government is blocking the Uhuru 3 from citing free speech as part of its defense. So they're just eliminating the Constitution altogether. This is unthinkable. So will I be indicted? I certainly hope not. They don't have a case, unless they are able to manufacture a case from the precedent set from a successful prosecution of the Uhuru 3. This is why this trial is the trial of the century. This is the trial of the life of America. This is the only trial that matters in America right now. And the government must lose this trial, because this is a trial not just against free speech and the Constitution, but against all Americans and everything American claims it stands for.
Well, well said. I just want to say that we do these forums to educate, to agitate, and to organize. So that means that we are not passive observers of information. And that is the difference between the stations that we support and the media that we advocate for, to make sure that it takes on an activist role to organize in support of the Uhuru 3, more programming, more programming, more programming, to pick up on the issues such as the raid just the other day of Scott Ritter's house, and to also put this in the context. And as we round up, just be aware, the UAW has been, and myself and colleagues in the Association of Legal Aid Attorneys, which is a local that is part of the UAW, have been subpoenaed before the House Committee on Education and Welfare on Labor, part of which is to dismantle the labor laws, but part of which is to fight back against those people who have supported a ceasefire, the divestment sanctions movement, and so on, and are fighting against colonialism and settler colonialism, which inherently equal genocide. So these tools and the use of the law are happening in many different ways. There is the reviving of the UAC, the House Un-American Activities type committees, and so on. So it is the trial of the century, but it was the precursor to that was Julian Assange and the like. We are operating in a period of tremendous political repression. These are absolute critical cases and individuals to support, but do be aware that we're operating in a time where they're trying to silence all dissent that is against the militarist and the military industrial complex and so on. So, and there is looming behind Project 2025, which will, so dear sisters and brothers, support Pacifica and make it have the heart and soul of the working people, of the oppressed people, of the disenfranchised, not to be afraid to put on programs like this. This should be the meat and potatoes. And those of you who put together this forum, support this group, support their candidates for the board, and make sure that Pacifica serves the interests of the people and the oppressed and the disenfranchised, and doesn't capitulate for the sake of financing or for any other reason to social democratic or democratic politics. And I'm sorry, that needed to be said. So thank you all for allowing me in your living rooms, and particularly thank you to the enormously important organization of decades that has taught all of us so much, and particularly people who strive for self-determination and must learn how to be better allies to anti-imperialist and anti-white supremacist struggles for the liberation of African peoples. Thank you, Omali Yeshitela, our chairman. Thank you, Penny Hess, for your allyship work and teaching us the way. And thank you, Scott Ritter, for your principle, your dignity, and your courage in really telling it like it is and upholding the banner of free speech, which doesn't mean just your speech, it means speech, and to engage in dialogue and then hash out political positions. Thank you. And now I turn it over to Sheila Hamanaka, and with, again, for all of our representatives of stations, the least we can do is make sure that there's more programming on the Uhuru 3 and more representation from Scott Ritter. These are the voices that are truly the voices to liberate us, and that Pacifica was constructed to bring the messaging from. Thank you.
Thank you,
It's been a
Sheila.
pleasure. And I'm truly honored by all of you and the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much to our guests. It's this forum has just been incredible. And it's not huge, it's not like 50,000 people, but it's a room full of activists. And I think this is a step forward. You know, we're bringing together two powerful movements, the people working with Scott Ritter, the people behind the African People's Socialist Party. These are groups that wouldn't ordinarily be hanging out in the same Zoom, but that's what we need. We need to build a united front against fascism and against racism and colonialism. And it's good. It's very strong people, very honest people, and it's been an honor and a privilege. And I think our next goal is to bring this to the airwaves. I would like to have this on the Pacifica airwaves, a program like this, even, you know, bigger, spread it out. You know, Pacifica has a great potential. We're in 5 cities, and we should use that potential. And that's what this struggle is about, is to move beyond the powers in Pacifica that are beholden to or beloved of the Democratic Party, which of course we all know is the Democratic Party Justice Department is persecuting our friends right in front of us. And so despite all the hoopla at the DNC, this is what's really going on. This is the important stuff. So right now we're going to open it up to our candidates. With our guests, thank you for coming. I know your time is limited, and we can certainly understand it if you have to go. But for our Pacifica family, we have candidates here, 2 of whom have been so generous as to step up ahead of time. Felipe Messina from Rescue Pacifica at KPFA, and James Bryan from my own station, WBAI. So let's start with Felipe. I think you both have like 4 minutes each. So take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak. My name is Felipe Messina. My friends call me Phil. I am a member of the American Working Class and a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBW, Local 684 out of Modesto in the California Central Valley. And I am a 2024 KPFA Local Station Board candidate running with the Rescue Pacifica Caucus. Learn more about our candidates and our campaign at rescuepacifica.net. It's truly an honor to speak alongside fellow advocates for peace and freedom and justice, such as Mimi Rosenberg, Scott Ritter, Omali Yeshitela, the People's Lawyer Leonard Goodman, and my fellow Rescue Pacifica allies here on this Zoom call. Like Scott Ritter, I'm an American citizen who is a patriot. Like Chris Hedges, I define a patriot as someone who works to make the nation better, not someone who uncritically supports the establishment orthodoxies or pieties. And like Scott Ritter, I stand for defending our nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And as someone with a degree in economics and a lifetime of experience as a member of the American working class, I am also an anti-capitalist. That means I'm pro-labor and pro-working class. And this is why the Pacifica Radio Network is so important. We need to hear these voices, all of these issues that were raised today. I hope we have more events like this because I really want to hear more from every speaker that spoke that didn't have time to flesh out their thoughts and their perspectives. This National Town Hall Forum was organized by Pacifica Fight Back, campaign to preserve democracy and accountability at Pacifica Radio. Scott Ritter spoke about the duty of a free press to challenge official narratives when those narratives can be shown to be wrong or false or deceptive. Unfortunately, we do not have a free press. Fortunately, we do have a democratically governed free speech Pacifica Radio Network, if we can keep it. This is why New Day, Pacifica Safety Net, Protectors, and the Democratic Party, they're all trying to take over Pacifica or bankrupt it. They do not want any of this information to come out that we're discussing here. I was at the 1999 KPFA lockouts when there was an attempt to take over the station. Fortunately, the nation, celebrities, people, progressive people around the country rallied around KPFA, and we want a democratic governance structure. But ever since then, behind the scenes on the local station board, there has been a group who, as someone just said, is either beholden or beloved. I think Sheila said very well, beholden or beloved to the Democrat Party. And they have been undermining democratic governance of the station. And we need to expose this. We need to expose what's going on behind the scenes. We need to expose the fallacies and the bad journalism, the lack of journalistic integrity that is reflected by this opposition that we face on the local station boards and on the national board, that does nothing but apologize for the establishment. And again, this is why Pacifica Network is so important to fight for. This is the only terrestrial radio network that is independent and not corporate controlled. The mission of Pacifica is to present alternative sources not normally found in the mainstream. And yet, I remember KPFA in the 90s and the rest of Pacifica stations, they would have totally championed somebody like Scott Ritter. During the Iraq War, KPFA championed Jar DeMille, if I remember his name correctly, who was an unembedded journalist in the Iraq War. And now we don't have KPFA or Pacifica Radio Network championing people like Scott Ritter or people like Richard Medhurst or Max Blumenthal. There is definitely a fight for the soul, heart and soul of Pacifica Radio. And that is why I am running. And I ask you to spread the word and support Rescue Pacifica and our allies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Felipe. That was great. I love it. I love everything you say. Okay, I'm partisan. I love Rescue Pacifica. Next, our own most excellent James Bryan from WBAI. Are you muted? Is James Bryan muted? Can somebody see?
He is muted.
I'm
James.
going to open
Okay.
my voice. Yes, yes. Again, so I'll repeat myself. Yes, I'm so honored to be on this forum with many of my current teachers. This is really the best of what Pacifica has been at times, and nostalgia is not usually very constructive, but this is really some of the best practices of Pacifica at one time. Yes, so James Bryan. Did I introduce myself? James Bryan. I'm an alma mater of the University of Pacifica for about 40 years, a little over 40 years, most specifically the WBAI campus in the New York City region. I really appreciate what Felipe has presented. I underscore everything that he said, the background. I just want to say that really we've been presented with a tremendous gift with the conclusion of the political theater of the two neocon parties this past Thursday. They presented visions of the future that the masses of the United States reject, particularly our youth. And if it could only be as easy as going the opposite direction of what they presented, that would be a grand gesture. But they always present roadblocks and confusion. So we also had RFK Jr. The Kennedy brand has always been one that has been very much acceptable in the United States here, but they've had one who is really deranging the whole political landscape right now. So what we really have to we really need clear voices like the best of what Pacifica has offered over the years, and that's what we're fighting for right now. I'm a member of both the Pacifica Fight Back group and most specifically in WBAI elections. I am a candidate, if I failed to mention that. I am I'm in common cause with my Justice and Unity fellow candidates. You can find that in justiceunity.org. And also, it needs to be said that there are people on our current majority who are really very much opposed to the democratic process that has been developed over a number of years after hard struggle, particularly in the late 20th century, about 1999, 2000. And the democratic process that we had, we fought to make sure that it was deeply representative of our listening areas. And right now, there's always been inevitable resignations and departures from the board, from the LSBs, and and they are pushing a resolution through a very dangerous alternative process to fill those open. Yeah.
Your time is up.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So all right. I think I mentioned that about the alternative process that must be defeated. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, James. I'm sorry our time is so limited. I have a question. Felipe, do you know, are there any other candidates from Rescue Pacifica in the forum today? Do you know?
I do not think so, but there are KPFA local station board members in the forum.
Oh, okay.
I am. I'm a candidate.
Oh, I'm sorry, Donna.
I'm also a candidate, but I'm not in KPFA or KPFK.
Okay. Donna, is that Donna Carter?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, Donna, that's great. I'm so glad you're here. Could you please take like 2 minutes to speak?
Sure. I'm Donna Carter, and I'm on the I'm part of the Rescue Pacifica slate. I'm also an LSB member at KPFA, and also in the Pacifica National Board. We in Rescue Pacifica represent 1/3 of the LSB members. And I have to say that I'm really proud of our group because in spite of constant harassment, denial of rights in our meetings, that our caucus has held on. And we have sufficient votes to have a Pacifica National Board member. And that, I think, speaks very well. KPFA has made some programming decisions which speak to the motivations of some of the dominant caucus. The station is putting on many hours of programming by commentators who are pro-war, not for peace, not interested in the community of which KPFA is a part of, or which brought KPFA to life. And they have led the movement in all the other stations to dominate the Pacifica board and the direction of Pacifica. And they continue to do so. This is a very serious matter. Some of the actions they took through legal cases towards Pacifica caused Pacifica to have to spend thousands, if not hundreds of $1,000s of money to defeat. They continue to make efforts to downgrade the participation of the members through bylaws changes that are still pending, or one at least that still continue. And it's a disgrace. So we are having elections in Pacifica for the local station board members. And I just encourage everyone who is a member of Pacifica or a station, including a station, to vote in the upcoming election and to build caucuses amongst your ranks. Many of you do have some such caucuses, but to continue to build them.
You're running for time.
Okay, last comment. We feel that in this election, we are doing well and hopefully we'll gain more membership in our local station board.
Okay, well, gee, thank you. Thank you very much, Donna. Let's see, Eleanor, can you help me with these? Are there any listeners that have been endorsed by Pacifica Fight Back, listener candidates from KPFK that are here with us today? I'm not sure if I can read all these names. Jack Neff, Marisol Belma.
I do not have.
Cooper is right there as well.
Yeah, Rick Cooper.
Oh, Rick Cooper. Rick Cooper is here, and he's from KPFK. Oh, and he's one of our on our list of supported candidates. Is that how it's going?
I do
I
not
don't know
have
if I'm there yet. We'll see after I speak.
Well, I tell you what, I don't see Mr. Cooper on our list here, so we're going to run through our little list of speakers, if you don't mind. And then when we're all done, we're going to open up the floor, and certainly other candidates can speak for 2 minutes and ask questions, etc. Okay, any KPFK staff candidates here? Brenda, Janine Roan, perhaps? Ninel. And how about Nancy? Do you know if there are any KPFT listener or staff candidates here? Is Nancy muted? I'm not hearing from Nancy. Eleanor, do you have the list in front of you, or should I stumble through these names?
I'm only familiar with the WBAI names, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. Let me stumble through these names. Anissa Faruqi, Robert. So this is like a mini ad for our
I think
candidate.
Anthony Fest is on. Isn't he a
Oh,
staff
Anthony
candidate?
Fest, are you here?
Yes, he's here.
I'm here.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I even know Anthony. Shame on me. He's running for the KPFA staff. So please speak, Anthony, for 2 minutes.
Give me 1 second, please. I see it looks weird because the overhead light. Let me go turn that off.
Why don't we go to Benupti in the meantime at WBAI?
While we're waiting for the lighting department.
Yes.
Okay, that's a little better, isn't it? Yeah, that overhead light was shining right into the camera. So, but
No,
yeah,
Anthony, yeah, you're just you're like an actor. So
like what?
You're like an actor. You deserve good lighting. So carry on.
Okay, well, yes, I am Anthony Fest. I'm a staff candidate for KPFA LSB. I'm a staff candidate, but I heartily endorse the listener candidates of the Rescue Pacifica team, Felipe and Donna, and the others on the ticket, rescuepacifica.net. Hard to believe, but I've been associated with KPFA for 30 years now, and the changes that I've seen in that time should be hopefully interesting to people. I started out as a news reporter. Then I hosted the Sunday news for 20 years. And what I'm doing now is the technical production of the Project Censored show. And by the way, I'm proud to have had Mr. Yeshitela on as a talk show guest. That was many years ago. Without diving into all the details, one of the big changes that has happened at KPFA in the years that I've been there has been a change for the worse, and that's a decline in community participation. I mean, it's still listener sponsored. They still appeal for people to donate. Oh, and could somebody mute themselves? There's a lot of weird noise in the background.
Yes, Eleanor, can you mute the person who's on a telephone? It looks, I keep seeing a telephone picture.
I think it's the 310. But anyway, many people, are asked to donate. And they're still on the air saying support this station, but no longer is the community asked to participate in many meaningful way. On the other hand, for many years, we had a program council that was a mix of listeners and staff who would meet once a week or so, or sometimes slightly less. But they would do reviews of existing shows and hear proposals for new shows. Unfortunately, the council was never formally established. It was a long-standing institution, but an informal one. So along about 2011, the manager who didn't like the program council simply announced that it was canceled, and we couldn't do anything about it. That manager resigned later over a rather disgraceful issue unconnected to programming. However, none of the managers who followed her acted to restore the program council. I think Andrew Phillips was one who wanted to. I think he had democratic aspirations, but somehow he thought it was too complicated and never actually made it happen. However, let me continue a little. So as it stands now, the managers simply change when they make change when they feel like it, or more important, they don't make any change when they don't feel like it. That's unfortunately the biggest trend, is that the same programs go on and on and on, decades on end, and we're not doing anything for the new generation. How am I doing time-wise?
I was not time.
Oh, okay. Okay, a couple examples.
Everybody's yelling at me.
Years back, we had a program called The Morning Mix, which had unpaid staff on in the morning, which was kind of a departure from the normal practice. The small paid staff tried to keep the morning drive hours for themselves, but we had a program called The Morning Mix, which was predominantly unpaid staff at 8 a.m., different hosts on different days. Well, interim manager eliminated that without any explanation. And now we've had one change that took place earlier this year. Another interim manager put Ian Masters on our air without explanation. He just announced it to the staff, and there it was. And people have already explained what's wrong with that program. And of course, we could do a million better things with 9 full hours a week. So it's been a big disappointment the way things have gone, and it can be summarized as a lack of community participation, because I don't think these unfortunate changes could have happened had there not been an absent program council. So that's one of our platform points with the Rescue Pacifica ticket. We need to bring back an elected program council. And of course, that's just one program point, but thanks for listening. Please visit our website for more. And really, that person's got a mute. It's at 310. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Right. Eleanor, is it possible to mute?
I just did.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. So, Nancy, are you here? Nancy Saibara Naritomi? Are you here? Is Nancy here? Does anyone know? Okay, Nancy, can you unmute? And
Yes, Nancy sees BAI Rachel Barr and Anissa Faruqi from KPFT, and I'm looking for our the people that we asked, the candidates that we offered to give them time first, and I'm here.
Okay. So I think we're up to KPFT. So if Anissa can speak, followed by yourself, Nancy, that would be great.
Anissa, can you unmute?
KPFT, by the way, is Houston. KPFA is Berkeley, California. KPFK is Los Angeles.
And hello, I am Anissa Faruqi.
Welcome.
KPFT.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead. Please take 2 minutes.
I've been on the KPFT board since 2012. I have seen many wonderful changes to our station, and I have seen, unfortunately, some bad changes with leadership in the past. And I'm hoping to get on the board to help promote and pave the way for future leadership.
Thank you.
And Nancy?
Okay. My name is Nancy Saibar Naditomi, listener candidate for KPFT. I'm not happy with a lot of things at our station, particularly the movement to do more music and we have an HD2 channel. So we're the only Pacifica station with that. And so we're putting all our Spanish language programming which were only 3 shows, have been moved to the HD2. And because of lack of promotion of the HD2 programs, I call HD2 channel at KPFT Siberia right now. And this should not happen. If you're going to have another channel, you have to promote those shows on the HD1, which is the FM channel. So we're cutting our own throats because Harris County, the 3rd largest in the country here in Houston, is, from the last census report, 43% Spanish language cultured people, 33% white, 18% Black, and all the others are single digit percentages. So we're moving in the direction, like I think I don't know about your other stations area, but we certainly I need Spanish when I'm out in the outside. I have to, or going anywhere, or even talking on the bus or at the store. I need a little Spanish. Even I meet a lot of immigrants from Afghanistan now. I'm telling them, you have to learn some Spanish if you're going to be in Houston. And they're like big-eyed and, oh, really? And I said, yes, really. So we have a problem, but I want to talk about the whole network as what we need to do. Number 1, we need membership. That includes outreach, that includes putting flyers on doors, going to meetings where there's groups of people anywhere, have a sign, homemade sign with LED lights on it. That will catch attention.
Nancy.
What'd you say?
Did
my time go up? Oh, my time's up. Well, that's too bad. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Nancy is the greatest when it comes to rousing the crowd. We're bringing Nancy back at the end because we need a little rousing here.
There is also a WBAI candidate, Rachel Barr. I see her on present.
Rachel Barr, and Banupti is here as well. Is that true?
Corazon is here too, I think. Corazon.
Yeah, I think Corazon isn't running anymore, but certainly let's move on. Would Rachel like to speak?
Sheila, hi everyone. Can you ask Banuti if he wants to speak before me?
Okay, Banuti, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Sheila.
Sure. That's very gracious. Thank you, Rachel. And hello, Sheila, fellow comrades and listeners. And I wasn't expecting to speak, frankly, but I'll take the opportunity just to say that I am honored and always humbled to be in the company of very committed and seasoned veterans of not just struggle, but media freedom fighting. So as a WBAI listener and member and current station board member, local station board member, I hope to continue to serve as best as I can to bring this freedom fighting work that must be done in this colonial settler state pushback era, this Intifada era, to the fore. I think we should bring as much to the front of the struggle as possible the fact that we are not. This is not a civil rights era anymore. This is we're on the verge of a revolution if we can make it happen. And the people need it. Humanity has needed it, and I think we're the ones, some of the ones who can make it happen. So I'm looking forward to being part of that. I'm hoping Pacifica can rise to the occasion with our nudge and our encouragement. So much love, revolutionary and otherwise, to everyone.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Rachel?
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rachel Barr. I've been involved with BAI for 40 years. I started as a volunteer at 505 8th Avenue. I helped produce 2 programs, Wake Up Call with the wonderful Bernard White and Sharon Louise Harper and Errol Maitland. And I also helped produce a monthly show called Cuba in Focus, which has not been on the air for quite a while because the producer became ill. And I'm in conversation with the new IGM to get that put back on the air. We had a program council when we were at 120 Wall Street, but for some reason, I don't know the reason given, that is no longer, and I would really like to see that back. So there were 2 candidate forums on the airways of BAI this past Wednesday and Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. You can go to the archives and figure out your time out there and listen to them. It might be interesting to you to hear all of the candidates from all the various points of view speak. So we have recently gotten some monies from some union via the new IGM, and my concern about that is that although I'm a union person, I question lately these days the corruption of some of the unions, and I'm afraid that the new IGM. I'm sorry, what?
30 seconds.
Thank you. So I'll wrap it up. So we just need to keep an eye on which unions have been given money and accepted the money, because I'm deeply concerned about that. I'm retired, but you know, when I was working, I was in a union, a corrupt one, if any. So I just want to encourage everyone who's from BAI on this call to vote early, vote often, as they say, and to be very, very wary of Pacifica as a foundation. Okay, can I just say 3 seconds more?
Sure.
The politics of Pacifica is changing, and we need to be very wary of it. And if necessary, we need to do a Young Lords Act and be true revolutionaries and take over the damn thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rachel. And since I'm from BAI, I'm going to read the names of our candidates that couldn't make it today, who are all fantastic. John Brinkley, you heard James Bryan, you heard Rachel, you heard Benuti, Elaine Lloyd Nazario, also known as Queen Mother, Sharon Salam, who, by the way, her son Yusuf spoke at the DNC, and Barbara White. So thank you to all those candidates. Nancy, do you know are there other candidates here from our list of special Pacifica Fight Back endorsement candidates? Are there any more here?
I'm a candidate in LA.
I think I heard your voice before, sir. And
yes.
If we're right. Hold your horses 1 second. So Nancy, are we done with?
Yeah, I've checked. I don't see any more. So
okay, all right. So who? What did you say, Michael?
Ian Johnson is on the phone. He's saying from LA.
Oh, okay. Ian, would you like to speak, please, for 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, 2 minutes. Take it away.
So, for those who don't know me, I started as a volunteer during the battle days of the 90s corporate coup takeover but I was a worker on the inside who was doing what I could to get information out to the movement because, of course, obviously the Epstein, Becker, and Green and the decision strategies takeover from the Democratic Party, was doing very well. And we needed people on the inside. I was happy to be that. We won, except we didn't really win because it was promised that there would be a Stalinist purge by Susie Weissman, right, Trotskyists. That would be a Stalinist purge that would take all the, Radio Nation people, all the Mark Cooperites, and dispel them. And unfortunately, that never happened. Mark Cooper got the last ride on the last helicopter off the embassy roof, but the rest of us were stuck with all of his co-hosts and guest hosts like Ian Masters, who now somehow has a job at Pacifica again. Ridiculous. Pacifica's at a dire straits because it's lost its relevance. There was a time when we had listenership, we could pay our bills, we were growing, and people brought forces to bear on that to make sure that didn't continue. I was twice elected to the local station board after leaving the air, and twice suspended illegally. So we need to clarify in our bylaws perhaps how suspensions play into the game. But if it's simply a simple majority that's what's required, that basically gives you a free year or of an extra, vote on the board for your people or of voting not against you. So I think, our bylaws were fine. We worked hard on them. They weren't the bylaws we wanted. They were the Plan B bylaws that were squeezed in by Dave Abelson. But, whatever. They are what they are. When we were successful, we had these bylaws. So that's clearly not the issue. What these people are hoping for is a audience-free, CIA Foundation-funded Pacifica to get around the idea of, being popular or relevant. But, the fact that we keep playing with George Soros money or whatever doesn't mean anyone cares. So it's time to make Pacifica relevant again, and I'd like to help you do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to steal a little host privilege here and say something about Ian Masters at KPFA. I particularly do not like Ian Masters. Berkeley and the Bay Area is a city with a third Asian population. They only have one program for the Asian voices out there, one program, but Ian Masters gets 9 hours. He's a white guy who thinks Mumia Abu-Jamal is guilty. And for all of us here who think Mumia Abu-Jamal is guilty and a brilliant journalist, probably the most brilliant journalist alive in the United States today, he thinks that we're dupes for supporting Mumia. Okay, that's all I have to say. All right, now, I need some help opening up the floor to conversation, to questions, to other people on the board who are not candidates, who have something important to say. I do recall there was some gentleman from someplace who was a candidate and wanted to speak. So who's going to help me call out the speakers? Eleanor?
May I speak? I'm from WBAI and I'm a candidate.
And Rick Cooper has been raising his hand multiple times.
Rick,
right. So I'm sorry. Who's going to assist me? I'm legally blind. Okay, folks, can't see what's going on. So I need a little assistance.
I will help you with names of people who have their hands raised.
Oh, okay. And I think there's somebody, Cooper, who's been
Rick
wanting
Cooper.
to speak.
Yes.
Wanting to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sheila, and thank you, everyone. I'm really learning a lot about Pacifica, about some of the goings on, which is, you hear about for years, all this interplay. I'm so excited. This group is inspiring me because there's so much energy and so much passion here. I appreciate that. My name is Rick Cooper. I'm a candidate for the LSB for KPFK. I've been an activist all of my life, from time I was raised in the San Gabriel Valley, debating against the Vietnam War, to marching against the Iraq War, to recently supporting the students and the university on their protests against the genocide in Gaza. I have a lot of radio experience to bring, and I believe this is something that will benefit the radio station. I was my first job in radio was in KERG, which was Dan Healy's station, Dan of the Grateful Dead fame. I was a co-founder of KMUD Radio, a radical station in Humboldt County. I've been on their board, personnel committee, hiring committee. I was the director of public relations, programming committee, whatnot. And I've then since then have been a consultant to a number of radio stations, KKCR on Kauai, KMNO Mana'o Radio on Maui. And recently I've been speaking with Michael Novick about coming in and helping some of the public affairs hosts to kind of clean up the way they present themselves a little bit and the way they're speaking. And this is something I think that it could be valuable for the station. A couple of things I hear that are most important are getting listeners back and bringing in money. One of the things I believe is that we, besides bringing listeners back, besides reaching out, is we really need we need more youth in there. I think KPFK and Pacifica in general, stations are seen as a baby boomer kind of, a paradise where we're all clinging to this thing we built, but we've got to pass it on. So I think about when I was working with the students at Humboldt State University on their protests against the genocide, I found how welcome I was to support them. And I believe that we could reach out to youth groups and show them that we have a media, we have a platform, and bring them in. And I think if we had a youth council, that could be really helpful. Another thing I think that's important is for KPFK to promote itself better. One thing I've noticed in a lot of radio stations is they don't promote themselves well. They have this great megaphone, but they don't do so well at promoting themselves. These days, with people being so disgusted at media manipulations, propaganda, and all that, and all the special interests that are going on, I believe that it's a perfect time to be able to get more listeners on that regard. I hope you'll consider me for a candidate, KPFK LSB. My name is Rick Cooper. Thanks very much. Really appreciate being here.
Thank you very much, Rick. By the way, in another show, Scott Ritter commented that he and other alternative speakers are being deplatformed, like Judge Napolitano, taken off YouTube for a week. Well, hopefully we can get them on the radio. Maybe Pacifica will not deplatform the people that are being driven off social media. So that's something to think about. And who's next, Eleanor?
Next person with their hand up is Kirkby Washington.
Okay.
Hi.
Tell us what station are you from?
Hi, I'm with KPFK in Los Angeles. I'm with the show Working Voices, but I just wanted to ask a question. So if there's more candidates that want to speak, let me wait. I'll start whenever you open it up to questions.
No, go ahead. This is the time.
Okay, fantastic. So I wanted to actually have an exchange with Felipe, and I know another person in the group mentioned that they were a part of labor. I am a part of IATSE. I've been in IATSE since 1977. My first union was officially segregated, and here in 2004, the workplace is still unofficially segregated. We wanted to do on Working Voices, one of the things we wanted to do was take on the phenomenon of racism in labor. In fact, one of my mandates for the show was to leave space to talk about how well Dr. King's vision of civil rights is holding up in contemporary conversations about labor rights. Now, we're having a problem with that on Working Voices. So as a candidate, I wanted to just kind of bounce around the idea of how we can mellow things out. And people, what it is people are not familiar with racism. People they join a union and think, okay, I'm purified. I joined a union. That means I can't be a racist. And people come into the Pacifica network, and it's the same kind of phenomenon. So I wanted to put that into the group, and let's kind of talk about how we can, we don't have to dismiss it. We don't have to disintegrate it, but we do have to address it and kind of mitigate it so we can all do something good with this station. That's my general question. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think he had a question for Felipe. How do you want to handle this, Eleanor? Should we stop for a minute and have Felipe answer that question?
Sure.
Felipe, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, take it away.
Well, thank you for that question. Yes, labor is an important issue to discuss and for all of us to engage with as an issue, as is racism. And I'm glad that we're bringing up the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, because in so many ways we have regressed, I think, as a society, and even as a progressives as leftists or anti-imperialists, anti-racists, because there's so much about what Dr. Martin Luther King talked about that we have not even really acknowledged or how do you say, embodied to this day. And in labor, I can tell you from my experience, people that I speak with in the union, IBEW, they talk about in their recent memory when Black and brown people were not allowed into the IBEW. And it was pretty much a closed network. So these are very important issues to discuss. The issue of racism still dogs us, and I mean, it's a very valid thing. I would just say that we need to keep organizing and having these sorts of discussions where we can flesh out these things. I noticed that during this whole Zoom call, from the first segment to the second segment, there's a great diversity of perspectives. We are all on different perspectives in our political understandings, our understandings of economics, the economy. And I hope that we have more of these forums so that we can understand each other and then see where we can find common ground to work together. I'm an anti-capitalist. That means I'm pro-labor, pro-working class. But I know a lot of people are not necessarily anti-capitalists. And so, but we need to have these discussions to understand where we have common ground and where we will agree to disagree.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Milos is next.
Elizabeth is from KPFA, Rescue Pacifica. I believe you're on the board, correct?
Yes, I am on the
Wonderful.
board. And I'm part
Wonderful.
of Rescue Pacifica, and I'd like people to check out rescuepacifica.net. We have the honor of actually having also Dr. Rabab Abdul Hadi as one of our KPFA LSB candidates for Rescue Pacifica. She is listed as first. She's Palestinian, scholar, teacher at San Francisco State University. And we also have, I want to mention the other people as well. We have Donna Carter, who just spoke, and Felipe, who spoke, and we have Pathma Fenasitambi, who's a member of Jewish Voices for Peace, Phoebe Thomas, who's a member of the Green Party, and also Stan Woods, a member of Oscar Grant Committee, Peace and Freedom, and a retired member of the ILWU Local 6. Virginia Browning, who's a former radio reporter, host, producer, and also past KPFA LSB member, and Mikai Freeman, disability rights activist. Now, what I wanted to say was very quickly, and I hope I'm given enough time to do this, because a lot of the things that were discussed last in the first segment had to do with free speech. And as Rescue Pacifica, we've been presenting things to, we've been doing speak outs in front of KPFA several times during these past few years, because KPFA calls itself a free speech. And that's one of the ways of being able to let KPFA listeners know about this power grabs that's going on. The latest thing, on July 31st, recently the protectors put out sent out an email accusing us of having attacked a female employee. That's a bald-faced lie. On July 31st, we had a speak out in front of KPFA where we put posters on the wall, and the business manager came out and attacked us. Now, none of the candidates were there. This was a Rescue Pacifica event, but none of the candidates were there, and it was not a candidate event. It was a press, it was a speak out to talk about the FCC monitoring of Pacifica and who was responsible for that. They tried to silence our voices, and she came out and took one of the posters off the walls, and one of the members who were with us basically just took the poster away from her. And she subsequently, we invited her to call the police if she felt we were doing anything illegal. No police were called, nothing. Then we got an email sent out to everybody. The protector sent out an email to everybody.
You need to wrap up.
Okay, saying that we had attacked. Now we need to let people know who these people are. They are liars, and they're trying to use apparently the fear of police or the alleged calling the police, basically making a false report. They didn't name anybody in their message, apparently because they realized that they would be doing slander if they did. So I think we need to, people should need to know who we're dealing with. The protectors, New Day, Pacifica Safety Net are all in cahoots, and they're trying to use the police like they use the federal government with the FCC against Pacifica and anybody who tries to bring forth the truth about what's happening and who is behind all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth Vilos.
Would Donna Carter like to speak if she has not spoken already?
Well, Donna Carter did speak for 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. And so who's next?
If you don't mind allowing her to say if she has anything additional to say regarding this, because this situation is pretty serious, what they're doing. And she's a PMB director. If we can allow her the opportunity to say something.
30 seconds or whatever, a short response. Our campaign at KPFA, as Elizabeth has explained very explicitly, has gotten very hot. I hope that we will be able to keep our message going about how should we say, the lack of democracy within the LSB and with the station in terms of all manners of running it. I urge you all to keep an eye on what's happening, because KPFA tends to dominate the Pacifica board, and what happens at KPFA tends to be transmitted to the Pacifica board. So it's an important effort. It's important. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And next, Eleanor
J. A. De Palma, but I don't.
Thank you very much, Eleanor.
I don't think he's running.
I am running, Eleanor.
I beg your
very
pardon.
much for understanding. Hello, can I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that we are all agreed about one thing, that free speech is never as dangerous as those who try to silence it. I've experienced in silencing in my job as a teacher. I could never understand how people don't understand that speech can never be dangerous. Maybe policies are dangerous. I realize that there are many friends, as well as, hi, Rachel, good to see you again. I hope you can be at the LSB meetings as you attend all the time. And I wanted to say thank you to Tom Voorhees for something he did many years ago to help WBAI. And I also wanted to say Anthony Fest, I believe. I've listened to what he said, and I understand what's going on in many of these stations. It happened in the New York City Board of Ed. They try to control and manipulate jobs because that's their power when they run an organization that has somebody else's money. I believe that Pacific has been mismanaged for over 25 years. I've been listening to this station since I was 16, and I'm now 72. I first started listening to Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead, so thank you for the person who made that comment about Dan Healy. And I believe that the people on the West Coast and the people on the East Coast have a similar goal, which is to keep Pacifica working. We need more listeners. We need more listeners with support. But I will say one thing that's very, very, very obvious in the chat. There are a lot of toxic broadcasters that don't really belong on our airwaves. And until we fix that, we are going to have a lot of people tuning in and saying, I could shut it off and get away from it. I don't need it. I've talked to 5 or 6 or 7 people over the last 10 years who said exactly that. They don't want to send money to a station that talks about anti-vax. They don't want to send money to a station that talks against, other people, whether it be the racism that I heard coming out of BAI in 1995, 2000, or anything else that's against Muslims or against Jews or against educated people or even working class people. I'm for unions that serve justice. I'm not for unions that serve their members with injustice for everybody else but their union members. Some of the police unions should, thank you very much, Eleanor. Some of the police unions really aren't unions. They're mobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Eleanor, who's next?
Jim Dingman.
Oh,
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
Sheila, there is a WBAI candidate that we are promoting. John Brinkley is on the call now.
Oh, okay. Well, time out, folks. Time out. Back to the regular program. The pre-Q&A section. Okay. John Brinkley, please take 2 minutes and tell us like it is. Is he muted by any chance? Eleanor?
Okay, I'm sorry. I just joined and I'm here with my grandson, so there's a lot of noise in the background. Let me say my piece in about 5 minutes until I get him settled and everything, okay? Is that okay?
Yes. We'll come back
Okay.
to you.
We're flexible. Back to Q&A. And I think we were up to Jim Dingman. Is that right?
Yep.
Thank you for being patient, Mr. Dingman. Please speak.
All right, thank you. There will be in New York other forums, and we invite everybody to come to them. And I think that'd be useful for other people from around the country to talk to each other. I'm Jim Dingman. I'm a member of LSB. I'm also a member of the National Board. I've been a member for 3 years. And the New Day majority is probably, I'm fearful they're going to impose an austerity budget on New York rather quickly in the next few weeks, if not 2 months. Because right now, the amount of money coming in through listener member dollars has declined, in some cases, 80 to 90%. So while it's great we're getting money from unions, people can fight about that. The nut to crack is to raise 120 to 130,000 a month, and that's not happening. So we have a real serious problem that's going to emerge for New York very quickly, very soon. And we have to work together on this. We also, all of us who are members of the board from New York, we're all cooperating and fighting against these people in the New Day majority faction, because they're essentially out to throw out all those hard fought reforms that we fought for 12 to 13 years to democratize the entire network. That's what they're fighting to eliminate. And they're about ready to pass a motion that will allow people to extend their terms. Now, some people feel, okay, that's reasonable. But if you game out what it means that they can avoid going to a listener membership bylaws change, which is what they're required to do, and achieve their objective of retaining their majority into next year. And they sort of have also so it reminds you of when you read about the unilateral kind of attitudes about the president of the United States. They assume that the executive director can do no wrong. And I don't have to tell you that some of us are not necessarily happy with what just happened in the past month there with the management. So we will have other forums. I thank you so much. It's great. Very interesting to listen to everybody. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. And Eleanor, how are we doing on time?
We have 5 more minutes.
Okay. All right. So who's next?
5 more minutes before the close of this town hall, supposedly, officially.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Chair, the next hand up is Ian Johnson, but I think since he already got to speak, maybe we go to the next hand down, James Sagerton.
Oh, how about I answer your question about unions? LA's union is SAG-AFTRA. Those are the people who are lying to you on every other channel of radio and television. That may be a mistake that we allow that to occur, but I can't see how we change anything because the staff love to appoint themselves and up themselves and tell each other how great they are. If they were so great, we'd have listeners. There aren't. And you're up against a real problem here at Pacifica. I should be on the board currently, but they're giving mass excused absences to avoid following the bylaws, which says that as second runner-up, I'm already on the board. And now, as Jim Dingman says, they're trying to change that by station vote or whatever, as opposed to listener-sponsored initiative referendum. So they're already breaking the rules. They're breaking the law. These people are, they're exasperating. And as far as people committing crimes, I've been slandered and told that I assaulted someone when in fact I was the one being assaulted, as I think Michael Novik can attest. He's seen the videotape. I touched no one. I was challenged to fight and didn't respond. So in any event, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, would you please wait for getting the floor before you speak? And thank you.
Well, I don't like being skipped over if my hand's up. Thank you.
Anyway, Eleanor, how many more speakers do we have with their hands up who haven't spoken before?
We have Jane Sagerton.
Uh-huh.
Serene.
Uh-huh. That's it?
That's it.
Oh, okay, good.
Elizabeth
Why don't
Milos would like to speak again.
Who?
Elizabeth Milos. Lisa.
Oh, Elizabeth
Yes, but-
Milos, and I believe John Brinkley was coming back. Okay,
Yes,
how
but
about if we
Serena hasn't
just...
spoken yet. Serena hasn't spoken yet, and she has her
Yes,
hand
yes,
up.
right.
Okay.
And so we're going to do James Sagerton, Serene, Elizabeth Milos, and John Brinkley, and then
I don't mind putting myself at the end.
You don't like putting yourself at
No,
the
I don't
end.
mind. I don't mind.
Oh, you
If
don't mind.
somebody
Oh,
else
okay.
has not spoken yet, I don't even have to speak. I can put it on the chat.
Okay. I'm all confused. Go ahead, put yourself in the chat. That's very generous of you. And then our illustrious Mimi Rosenberg, if she is still here, is going to do a one of her wonderful wrap-ups.
She is still here.
Thank you, Mimi. You're great. Okay, who is next, Eleanor?
Mr. Sagerton.
Mr. Sagerton. This should be like the DNC. James Sagerton. Okay, take it away.
Thank you, Sheila. So I want to take a step back and look at a bigger picture that I'm concerned about, having to do with the survival of Pacifica. You know, when in 1949, Pacifica invented listener-sponsored radio, which was non-commercial, non-corporate controlled. The listeners would donate if they heard something they wanted to hear. Then in around 2000 to 2003, we implemented the first and I think only in the world democratically run and governed and democratically operated media outlet, media network in the world. But now, due to many factors, you know, starting with television back in the day, but now with the internet in particular, radio across the country, across North America, in many parts of the world, is in decline. It's in a serious state of decline. And it may not matter who controls Pacifica, or, you know, various groups are trying to gain control all the time to put what they think is the truth on the air and that they think will generate listenership. Listenership is just down altogether. So we need to expand onto the internet. And I know that the internet is being censored. The internet is controlled by private companies, and they can censor, and they are. They're removing people from the platforms. That's also happening in Pacifica. I see that a program was removed just recently by the executive director and or management maybe Michael Novak would speak on that. We have to be careful. WBAI's management was stripped from us. You know, they tried to take us out of local control in 2019, October, when they came and shut us down. They tried to have bylaws referendums, tried to put Pacifica into bankruptcy. Okay, we have to move into the 21st century and expand our reach. That's it. Thank you.
Boy, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And let's see, I believe it's Serene Roberts.
So I'm going to be very brief because I always am. I'll say this, there's a whole lot of hypocrisy walking around here tonight. The person who just spoke is the person who is still defending having violated Pacifica bylaws by extending terms of people into 7 years when the language in the bylaws are, the words are, in no event. Up to last week, he was still pushing that crap. With regard to Mr. Dingman, and I understand they're coming after BAI, but you know, they're coming after BAI. You guys have been in the majority for more than 15 years. You trample the rights of the minority here in New York. And then you want us to work with you because, oh, the National Board, the New Day, they're so terrible. It's hard for me to distinguish whether the abuse I'm getting locally from the so-called indie slate, and trust me, some of those people who endorse you do not know who you really are. It's hard for me to distinguish between that and when Susan loses her mind, you know, the New Day queen from Houston, on the national board meeting. You guys censor the chat, you mute people, you threaten to put people off the, I mean, it's the same operation. You're just complaining that now, after you've pussyfooted around with New Day since 2019, when they told us, they showed us who they were, and you guys made them vice chair along with Steinberg in 1 year. And Steinberg said to Lawrence, "You are dead to me." Now, for those of us who loved Lawrence, and I know y'all will say you did too, you know, he really is gone. We won't forget those words. You know, De Palma said to me, "Try to be human." And he was an educator. I mean, aside from the obvious, I'm an African woman, in case no one knows, you know, so you tell me that's not racist? And this man frighteningly taught in New York City, thank you, in New York City public schools for decades. Okay, so people who are walking around saying, "I'm on the left, I'm green," yeah, you've got to check these people out. So look at the indie list, please, and then make sure you do not even rank them, because they talk the talk and they don't walk the walk.
Thank you, Serene. Eleanor?
There's no
Chair,
one with their
Chair,
hand
is
up. There's no one
Mr. John
with their
Brinkley?
excuse. There's
John
no one
Brinkley
with
is
their
here?
hand.
I'm sorry, John Brinkley was going to speak. Is he here? Is he back yet?
Oh, he's muted actually. So wait.
I'm here, but I'm not ready to speak yet. Go to someone.
What?
Oh, okay.
No, you need to do it now, John. We're wrapping up.
Has Benupti had a turn?
Yes. I suggest, how about we just let Elizabeth Milos make her final comment, and then we'll, if John is not ready, we'll have him on a future program, and we'll move on to our illustrious host, Mimi Rosenberg. How about that? Elizabeth Milos, are you available?
Can we check to see again if John Brinkley can speak? Because I don't want to.
He's not ready yet. So
okay.
I'm ready. I'll speak.
Okay.
I'll speak.
Okay.
Oh, yay. Very nice. Okay.
I am
John Brinkley from WBAI.
I'm sorry that I'm joining the town hall so late. I've been babysitting my 4-year-old grandson, who is a handful. We've been at the street fair in Newark that is there for peace and justice. And all I can say is this. Pacifica is a treasure, and those who want to support it and ensure its future need to step up. And here at BAI, we're in danger also. And I'm committed to do what, to paraphrase Malcolm X, by all means necessary. We had a group called the LSB Outreach and Fundraising Task Force, which I co-chaired with Hazel Pinder. And our goal was to bring together on a regular basis ideas, volunteers who are listeners, who are board members, who are staff members, to come up with ideas for fundraising and for outreach. We've had a moderate success, but we need the support of the local station board in order to continue in our current form. So this is something that is a no-brainer to proceed forward with. I also believe in the idea that we need to partner with other organizations, other entities that will allow us to reach a broader audience and also bring in a younger group of listeners and younger group of trained people who can move the station forward. So I advocated for partnering with local colleges and the students in their media departments in order to do that. But there's other ideas that are out there that we need to support and we need to implement, and we need to pull together and stop bickering over little stuff. I'm willing to work with anyone who is interested in doing concrete things that will support WBI and support the growth and stability of Pacifica.
Thank you.
That's my grandson in the background, he said.
Thank you, John. Yes, as one of the chants at the Democratic Party, DNC, was do something. Well, we say do something anti-colonial. That's our shout. So Elizabeth Milos, I think we promised you the last minute.
Really? Okay, thank you. I wasn't expecting such an honor. Thank you guys. I really appreciate all the work that you guys have done in putting together this town hall. It was fantastic, and I'm very happy. You guys represent the best of free speech, the best of anti-colonial, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist radio. And I'm so happy that you guys are here, and just thank you so much. I had other things to say that I put down in the chat. Let's not forget about the Pacifica archives. That's the treasure. That's the history. There are I believe four workers from the Pacifica archives. The entire workers from the Pacifica archives were laid off recently, with nobody is defending them. Christina Huggins, was the chair of the LSB. She was also a steward, I believe, for the CWA union that divided the staff of KPFA into paid and unpaid, and leaving unpaid staff completely without any kind of representation. And the attack by Jan Goodman against the WBAI staff, and basically trying to force Pacifica into a situation where they're threatening a lawsuit, trying to make Pacifica bring in all this paperwork to prove that they were staff members during the 2021 referendum. And that's basically, infringing upon their voting rights. They did this from way back when they lost the referendum from the beginning, and they're continuing to do that. And that is continuing to drain Pacifica. They now have control of Pacifica through Susan Young, who personally was involved in an election, in my view, an election violation, when she sent the list of KPFT members to nominate, which excluded the majority of the members who were supporting the opposition, and she is a member of the elections committee and also chair of the LSB, did not hand over a full list, and the list, this was before the deadline, so there was several violations, and she knew perfectly well that she would end up benefiting from if those members were disqualified, and they ended up becoming disqualified because they did not have enough nominations, apparently, even though they did, but the website issues made it very difficult for them to prove it. So there's a lot of stuff happening that we need to, and they're not squibbles, they're not little things. Those are direct violations, and we've been dealing with these kind of things for a long time. It's hard to even enumerate the number of things that we've had to deal with. And so those are things that are going on. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm sorry for taking up so much time.
Mimi. Yes, Mimi Rosenberg.
Well, first of all, I commend the people who ideologically and practically put together a forum of such grave importance in the context of today, where we are in the process. The question is elimination of speech or the censorship of speech. We lose virtually a local newspaper every single solitary day. We're not fighting against the consolidation of media. We're fighting against the complete loss of all local media. And the only thing that I want to say is the ideological struggle has to continue. I completely side and respect what has been said, the last of which was by Elizabeth Milo, the things that were said by Serene about dealing with hypocrisy and so on. But the one thing that I do think we have been, which is a necessity, and that is our Achilles heel as an institution, is financial and technical. Terrestrial radio is going to be and is a niche market. The messaging and the context and the concept for Pacifica has to be communicated out on multi-platform ways in which new audiences absorb information. And that means to become versed in and utilize social media and the like. It means also understanding within that the politics of things like social media, which are quickly being crushed by the commercial entities that control the platform the minute there is any kind of dissent against the status quo. So where I'm going with this is just, again, a plea to understand that we must begin to think about, which I've advocated for years, a national summit that looks at fiscal sustainability, which has been very much the Achilles heel of certainly BAI, where they seek to either crush us by the litigation, very often based around premises of, economics. Please, let's advocate this as a group, Pacifica Fight Back, that we pay attention to the nuts and bolts, quickly advocate for a national summit. If we need to get a grant for people to put the rudimentary elements of this in place, because people here don't have the time to volunteer all their energies to putting together an immediate, an interim, and a long-range plan to sustain this network fiscally and to move it to a new stage of technological development. There's no way you're going to bring in youth merely by the radio, the terrestrial sound. It has to be about the development of multi-platform ways of doing it and the facilities for the youth to make their own form of cultural presentations and be part of the process. So I adore what everybody has done here today, the comments. Yes, we are fighting for the ideological soul of this network. There's no question about it. But while we do that, while we do that, we must be able to think about shoring up our institution, and that means fiscally, and that means technologically, developing a plan for its development. And I would strongly concur with and begin to think about, which Pacifica has been so negligent about, so insular about, and that is exactly what John Brinkley said, and that is beginning to form a consortium of progressive media entities, from print to visual to the plastic arts and so on. And I hope at some point in a brick and mortar campus where we can really become a political player collectively on the media landscape and use multi-purpose and multi-platform ways of disseminating our messaging. I have complete confidence in what our message is. Where I am more concerned about is whether or not we can sustain our institution to be able to have the time and the technological means of disseminating that messaging, and for what period of time hereafter. So thank you for all the work you put in. Please, let's advocate. You can fight on the ideological, but we've got to build that structure and that infrastructure to be able to sustain the Pacifica network. And within that, just lastly, and I think Serene always says it so ferociously and stuff, the trappings of democracy, the nature of our bylaws are being whittled away. That is a political battle that is perhaps less fun to immerse ourselves in, but we absolutely must, and we must not give the facility and the opportunity for the new dayers, which are nothing more than the old days, to institute a hierarchical and a supremacist and an elitist structure that will wrest our precious 60 plus years for many of the stations broadcast history against militarism, against racism, against colonialism, and for a beloved community that is egalitarian in nature, by the people and for the people. So with an anti-capitalist perspective, that is my shoot from the hip kind of vision. But dear colleagues, there has to be the form, the process, and the procedure. There has to be the ideological, and then we have to work to really shore up this institution and figure out how, and to take it into a more creative and inclusive way. So think hard about that idea of a consortium, of bringing together our comrades from many different disciplines to really be able to challenge the assault that is there through the consolidation of media, and no doubt the inevitable takeover of social media to allow only the messaging that supports the capitalist and the capitalist industrial complex. Thank you for who you all are, the work you put into this, and for the guests that you had that give us ideas and stimulates our thought. And lastly, we must support the Uhuru 3. It is most decidedly one of the most important linchpins to the preservation of democracy in any context. And it is an attack. Make sure you understand, it is an anti-communist attack, it is a red baiting attack, and it's an attack on self-determination of the African-American liberation struggle and the struggle against colonialism. And Scott Ritter is just another component part of that. So, yep, let's do something. Yeah. And that is to really have the forums that we need to get more people on board to show up for the court appearances and so on, and make it clear to the system. We support the Uhuru 3. We will not allow political prosecutions and censorial efforts in our universities, in our unions, from national committees to silence what is beginning to be a burgeoning anti-colonialist period. Very exciting. Why is this happening? Because I do believe we will win. and they know it too. So thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
all who you are and everything that went into this effort.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mimi.
And Aluta Continua.
Really. Yeah. As our illustrious interim general manager at a certain station, who shall be unnamed, but he's also unpaid, often has said to us, there's plenty of ideas out there. We need people to do it. We need people to volunteer at the stations. We need people, if you have an idea for a program, you have to come up with a program, and you have to promote the program too. You have to bring your own audience with you. And we need to, in support of the Uhuru 3, pester and agitate our stations. We're from 5 stations here. Get them to get this story on the air. You know, people, by the way, a lot of blogsters and followers of blogs are paying journalists they support like $5 a month through Patreon. And I didn't realize this. Apple is taking 30% of that $5 that you donate to your favorite blogger. It's like, oh, we're helping Apple. Come on, give that $5 to Pacifica. You're getting 140 hours a week of programming. $5 a month, $25 a year. It's a super bargain. So I think we all know what to do. We just have to be in touch and work together. You can write to Pacifica Fightback at gmail.com. And most people probably know somebody at the stations. Please get in touch with us. Get in touch with Pacifica Fightback and, help us plan our next forum and to try and get this stuff on the air and work on that concrete project that Mimi suggested to us. So
and we provide 168 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say 140? Okay. 168. Okay. Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, James. Thank you, Mimi. Gee, don't I leave somebody out?
Can I interrupt for one quick second?
Okay, a voice. Yes.
Okay. So, fight back, people. I want to talk to you in 10 minutes. Thank you.
I don't know. Do you want to stay on the air while everybody else leaves? Is that what you want to do? You can have the Zoom if you want.
Yeah, that would work. If everyone leaves.
Yeah. All right. We're leaving.
Thank you very much for including some people and excluding others.
Goodbye.
We need to do a debriefing.
Okay. I didn't think we excluded people, but what do I know? Okay.
Thank you. Not exclusionary, but it's becoming exclusionary, as was said.
Okay, the town
pay
hall
the bills.
The town
hall is over now. Everybody can